What's up, gang? We're not wasting any time this week.
How's everyone doing today?
Me and Yams right now, dude. We're in the car.
We're on our way.
We're speeding.
Zoom.
Dude, we're on the highway doing about 99.99 miles per hour right now. We're hauling ass. Let me tell you, dude, the sky is purple.
Holy shit.
The street is purple.
There's a fire.
There are lights, dude. They're purple. Everything's purple right now, dude. And we're about to get purple up in this bitch. All right, everyone buckle in. Put on your seatbelts, dude.
Airbag's about to go off.
Or take them off.
Oh.
You're not going to... It's nobody surviving by the end of this podcast.
Only if you're in the back seat.
That's right, yeah.
Front seat always wear seatbelts.
Texas law, dude. All right, everybody securely fastened.
All right, we got Ben and April in the car with us.
Cats, got your seatbelts on? Catnip firmly in hand? Phew. All right, let's get into this shit, gang. This song is dope.
I like this song.
Listen to this later.
Yeah, this one's good. This makes me feel like I'm in an action movie.
Yeah. I feel like we're hauling ass down a highway.
We're about to reach the climax.
We're heading to
This is what they should have done in Transformers.
Yes. They're all driving. Yeah. Purple road, purple highway. All right, everyone. Let's get into it.
Welcome back. We made it home.
We sure did, dude.
We got here.
We arrived. We're at the studio.
Woo. Woo. God, that Houston traffic.
That was a drive, dude.
You know what I mean?
Bro.
Our studio.
Thank God we have like a Men in Black car. Like we can just fly when we need to.
What if we had one of those cars that the wheels would retract and then rocket boosters would go up and then we would zoom through?
Have you seen Men in Black?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I was talking about.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I didn't make that connection at all.
Okay.
I haven't seen it in a long time.
All right, that's fine.
Which one's the best Men in Black?
The first one.
Really?
Well,
what happens in the first one?
There's an alien, and he's a cockroach guy.
Oh, it's a cockroach one. Okay.
Yeah.
I think that is the best one. Which one's the second one?
Second one is the snake girl.
The snake girl. Okay.
And then, to be fair, I also very much liked the third one. Third one made me cry like a baby.
Is the third one the one where it's just Will?
It's Will, and he's in the past with very young Kay.
Oh, okay.
Who is like not...
He's not
Tommy Lee
a Men in
Jones.
Black yet.
No, he is a Men in Black, but he's very new.
Oh.
And he's like, yeah, whatever, Slick. I'm not buying this future nonsense. And he like is a begrudging partner.
Which one is the one where they like erased his memory and he's like an old guy and he doesn't recognize, like he's retired essentially. Is that the second one?
At the end of the first one, I'm pretty sure at the end of the first one, they wipe his memory. And then at the beginning of the second one,
he's like a normal civilian.
And he goes and somehow pulls him out of retirement because they need him.
I think that one's my favorite one.
And then the third one, I think Will accidentally goes back in time or maybe on purpose. And he finds young Kay, which at the time I thought, like when that movie came out, I watched it and I loved it because I've always been a big Men in Black fan.
Yeah.
And then I realized later they probably did that because Tommy Lee Jones was like, I'm not really trying to make another Men in Black. I'll give y'all like an hour of like shooting time. But maybe not. Maybe that was the story they were going to do anyway. But that's fair. That movie's great.
Did you watch the new ones with
I watched
Chris
the first
Hemsworth
one.
and all them?
I watched the first one. It was a good movie, but I don't think it's a good Men in Black movie.
Okay. It was so...
It's really just a Thor movie, if we're going to be really honest about it. Because it's Chris Hemsworth and Tessa Thompson. And they both are just like...
being goofy.
Yeah, they're being very goofy. The vibe is very... I mean, Men in Black movies are goofy anyway, but it just wasn't the same vibe. Like, the new ones look like Marvel movies. Super colorful, super goofy.
They don't make movies like that anymore. Like the early 2000 movies, they don't make really. They don't have that type of feel anymore.
Yeah, that aesthetic is just not what is like in pop culture anymore. You know?
I was watching this clip that Matt Damon was like doing like a personal interview with, and he was talking about because Matt Damon now is trying to like be a producer and like make movies.
Okay.
He was saying how like back in the day, movie theaters were like popping, and then he was also saying that CD sales were really really big for the movie industry. So
like soundtrack?
No, like sorry, DVD sales. My bad, not CD. I mean DVDs are CDs, but different. And he was saying how now, since everything's like Blu-ray and everything's like a streaming service, nobody really buys DVDs.
Yeah.
People don't go to the movies as often.
Yeah.
So it's harder for a studio to front someone an idea, or like it's harder for someone to pitch an idea of a movie that isn't going to be a blockbuster hit.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Or else the studio just won't make its money back.
Yeah, I guess back in the day, people would just go to the movies and watch a movie that they hadn't even necessarily heard about.
Or that movie would just get a lot of DVD sales because there's no streaming service. Yeah. So like a lot of the like early 2000s, you know, kind of right before 2010, like rom-coms and like there's just so many of those, and now they just don't make them. Yeah, because they don't generate money, or the studio doesn't make its money back. Yeah, so it's a lot harder for like indie style films to be made.
I bet a big part of that is also
or production companies.
Like Marvel.
Yeah,
Marvel has really, like, you cannot overstate how much they have influenced like the film industry. You know, if you're not making a like incredibly over the top,
produce
action packed, like visually jaw dropping movie, nobody cares right now.
Marvel has like taken so many genres and just put them into one. Yeah, there's like a romance aspect to it. There's like comedy. There's action. There's drama.
Yeah, it's really all of it.
It's all in one,
or at least they're trying to be all of it.
Yeah.
How crazy, dude. Yeah. You know, that's really. It's easy to not even think about because our entire adult lives, Marvel has been like the king of movies. But any time before 2008, superhero movies were like at best just like a small niche. It wasn't a big thing. Yeah. You know, the biggest superhero movies there were before Iron Man was like every 5 or 10 years, someone would make a Superman movie and it was okay.
Just okay, yeah.
Or like they had the early Hulk movies that were okay. There were a couple
Batman
others.
movies.
Batman movies, yeah. Batman was the biggest one.
Yeah.
But even then, the Batman movies were only a big deal after, like when Christian Bale was playing Batman. The first one, we talked about that a couple episodes. It was what, like the first one was in 2005, 6, 7?
Yeah. 2004, Batman Returns.
2004.
Or Batman Begins. That was the first one.
And honestly, even that one wasn't as big of a deal as when The Dark Knight came out.
Yeah. And I would say Batman probably was the best produced one because Batman doesn't have any powers.
Yeah. So it's easier to sell.
It's a lot easier to like, you didn't have to do anything crazy. Like Superman flying scenes from like early 2000 movies, you're just like, oh, this is just so silly.
Or even earlier than that, bro. In the Superman movies from the 90s and the 80s and the 70s, it's like comical to look back on now. Like it's so obviously...
It's like laser vision is not... Yeah. How do you get him to go super fast? It's insane.
It's like watching the original Star Wars movies.
Yeah.
When they have like the lightsaber fights.
Yeah.
And you like, back then I'm sure people watch it and they were like, oh my God.
This is insane.
He's holding a sword made of light. And now we watch it and the way they're moving with it, it's like, why are you acting like that? Because we saw the prequels after that and they're like doing gymnastics.
They're doing flips.
Yeah. And then, dude, I found out, because I was really curious about, I was like, why do they fight like the lightsabers hold or like weigh 100 pounds in the original movies? And I found out that like the props that they used, I mean, obviously the lightsaber is like a special effect, but the props that they were using, the saber part had to be made out of like glass.
Glass?
So that they could apply the effect to it.
Oh.
So the lightsabers that they were holding in real life were really fragile. So they couldn't do anything crazy with it or it would break.
Yeah.
So that's why they're just like, it's like nothing. Yeah. It's so silly. I really wish they would remake the first 3 Star Wars movies.
With a new cast?
Yeah.
Like the same exact story.
Bro, here's my thing.
Shot for shot similar, just with a new cast.
Almost all, if not all, of the important characters in the first 3 movies were present in the prequels as younger versions of themselves, right? Those actors that were in the prequels are now coming up on the perfect age to play those roles from the original 3 movies. Now imagine if we could redo episodes 4, 5, and 6 with
same
Ewan McGregor, what's his name?
Hayden Christensen.
Everyone.
Yeah.
Fucking Natalie Portman, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Natalie Portman.
No.
It is Natalie Portman.
She didn't play Leia.
No.
We didn't have a Leia.
We
in
didn't
the
have a Leia
prequels
in the prequels.
because she wasn't born yet.
Yeah. There's technically no Luke.
Yeah, no Luke either. So I mean, those are new casting opportunities, I suppose. But now we have actors from the Obi-Wan show that can play Luke and Leia when they get a little bit older to be at that age. Well, not a little bit. It's probably
like
another
10,
5 or 10 years.
Yeah.
We'll just recast them. It's whatever. But the point is, and I honestly
they're great movies.
Yeah.
They're really, really great movies.
I would assume it's only a matter of time before that happens. Like you're gonna never remake Star Wars movies.
Yeah.
I feel the same way about Harry Potter too. Because look, Harry Potter movies are great. Beyond great. They're incredible. They're the best movies I've ever. Like I love those movies so dearly. But one thing that I think they could have improved on quite a bit is like how impressive and fantastic the magic looks. Because most of the like awe-inspiring moments of magic in Harry Potter are like the little things.
Yeah.
You know, like making a feather levitate in class or like turning a person into a squirrel or some shit like that. Like that stuff happens and it's so fantastical. Or even like, bro, in the first one, just like watching a broom sweep itself across the floor, all kinds of little stuff like that, which is all great.
People lighting candles with just a wave of the hand.
Yeah.
That's all cool.
But now that we live in like the Marvel era of movies, I go back and I watch Harry Potter and I watch the fights between wizards and witches. I'm like, this is just boring.
Okay. Yeah.
Like, dude.
They're just waving sticks at each other.
Yeah. When we watch the most impressive looking fight we ever saw was probably either the last fight between Harry and Voldemort. And that was pretty crazy. That was pretty good. But the one that should have been, it should have like changed my life, but I don't think it did. It's when Voldemort and Dumbledore duel each other in the Ministry of Magic.
That was pretty insane, though.
It's pretty insane for the time.
I think it still pretty holds up as insane.
My issue with it is
a whole ocean.
It looks,
And the sound effects were crazy for that.
They were. It is good. I don't mean to make it sound like it's bad. But, dude, we're talking about the two most powerful beings in existence. These guys, first off, they both have the ability to teleport anywhere they want.
True.
They can both fly.
Yeah.
There is literally no limit to their power. And what we got was good, but I didn't feel like it conveyed that amount of power. What we really saw is like a lot of broken glass got thrown around, a lot of water got thrown around, sand, and like a big snake showed up, fire. Dude, I want to see I can't even think of it because I'm not creative enough, but really there is no limit to what they can do. You know, it's like
that reminds me of
Goku fighting Frieza. There should be some insane shit happening.
That reminds me of the scene in Star Wars Episode 3, Yoda versus Palpatine.
Exactly.
Where it's like, Yoda, you're like the greatest Jedi in existence.
Yes.
And all you're doing is just flipping around. And like throwing stuff.
Yeah.
And then you have to like escape.
Yeah.
And it was such a short fight, in my opinion.
Yeah,
there was really no lightsaber aspect to it.
Yeah, just a little bit.
But then they just started throwing shit from the little conference room and then it was over.
Yeah, that's true.
And I was like, damn.
Even so, like, that is true, but even that was such a step from like the original movies, especially because in the original movies, Yoda never, like, he was already retired. Like, there was no action with him.
He's a billion years old.
But like to see him, like Yoda, who even in the prequels is like an old man, walks with a cane. Like, you do not expect any kind of action out of him. And then he has this like old man, what's the old guy's name in Dragon Ball Z?
Master Yoshi.
Yeah, Master Roshi.
Master Roshi, yeah.
He has this Master Roshi moment where he like drops his walking cane and pulls his fucking lightsaber out.
He never pulls it out. He forces it.
Yeah, he literally pulls it from his waist with the Force and starts doing acrobatics. That is like the level of step up that I'm looking for, you know?
It's like going Super Saiyan.
And yeah, exactly. It's like going Super Saiyan. I love when a character like steps out of like the behavior they've had the entire time and like shows you that you have not seen any, like even 1% of what they're capable of.
You ever seen One Punch Man?
Yeah.
Oh,
I've
God.
seen little bits here and there.
Dude, you would fucking love One Punch Man.
Yeah. See, that's what I'm
so
talking. Or like, bro,
comical.
when
How crazy One Punch Man can get.
dude, when Rock Lee takes off the weights in Naruto,
Goosebumps.
that's exactly what I'm talking about, bro. Like, I love that shit. And there is no character in the world better for that than Dumbledore.
Yeah.
Dumbledore's old, bro. Like, he's old. He's so old.
It's like a couple 100 years old, dude.
But he's the most powerful thing in the world. Unstoppably powerful, bro. And we just never, like, we see him do a lot of cool stuff, but we never see, like...
Yeah, we actually haven't seen Dumbledore do anything.
We haven't seen him rock the world to its core like he can.
No.
Canonically.
And to be fair, nobody in Harry Potter ever really does that.
No.
Even Harry's not even like a powerful wizard.
We hear a lot of stories about it happening in Harry Potter, but we never see it happen. It's all just like people telling stories about a time. And it's always like, oh, it was a dark time. You know, which it is.
Show us the dark time, dude.
Yeah. I want to
see the dark time.
Yeah. That's also why I always say, like, my favorite character in Harry Potter is Voldemort.
Yeah.
Because he's the one that's consistently doing crazy cool shit, even if it's horrible.
Slicing people's throats.
Yeah. All kinds of shit, bro. Yeah. He's inventing his own nasty ass spells to fuck people up. He's like levitating people over the dinner table and torturing them at will. It's uncomfortable, dude. But that's what makes him such a good character. He's magic Hitler. Like, he's worse than Hitler. Because he's not even... I mean, arguably Hitler is as bad as it gets, but... Like, there was not even really a rhyme to the madness of Voldemort other than he just wanted people to fear him because he's the most powerful being in the world.
Do you... I want to transition topics here because I just thought about something.
Okay.
But do you think Hitler is a worse person than the people who actually went out and did what he wanted them to do? So, for example, in my head, I don't know if this is true or not. This is not a factual statement.
Okay.
But Hitler never tortured and killed people. He was just the guy in charge who was telling other people to do it.
Yeah.
Now, do you think those people who executed his orders are worse people than him? So, like, the people who were like running the concentration camp, as opposed to Hitler, who was like sitting in his Oval Office giving out commands and like having meetings and doing all this. Do you think they were worse than Hitler?
I think they're all equally bad. I think if you are taking any like role of participating in all that stuff happening, your badness is maxed out. Like if you have like tiers of how bad someone can be, you're beyond bad. Like you are as bad as it gets. Whether you're like doing it or just like at any point, if you're participating in it, you're bad. You're as bad as it gets.
Okay. Do you think Hitler was going around and like just killing people? I don't think he was.
That's such
in my head. I don't think he was.
I don't know, man. I would imagine no. At least not with any kind of like regularity, or we would have heard about that.
Yeah, because he's a political figure.
Yeah,
and he needed like
he needs to distance himself from that. Like in the public eye, it's all just official documenting, you know. And I mean, I guess to an extent, like he really needs to act like what's happening isn't even really happening, you know, and then it's just all happening in the background.
Yeah.
But I don't know, bro. It's hard to imagine that there was never a moment when he's like, I'm going to go visit the camp and like
fuck some people up.
While he's at the camp, he's like, yeah, participating in it.
Yeah.
But I mean, who knows, bro? But I mean, certainly the people who were doing it are the worst.
Yeah.
Especially.
That's what I was thinking too. I think the people that were doing it are worse than Hitler.
The people who are doing the medical experiments on people, man. Yeah. Dude, you ever been to the Holocaust Museum?
No, but I've read a lot about the Holocaust through history books, and it's pretty insane.
I took like, in high school, I took a 1 semester class on the Holocaust and other genocide studies. And part of the things we did for that, I mean, we studied a lot of stuff in that class, and it was all horrible. And one thing we did was take a trip to the Houston Holocaust Museum, which is, I guess, pretty famous and well known as one of the big, like one of the best museums displaying everything that happened in the Holocaust. And dude, like the medical experimentation they did on people who were prisoners is just worse than anything you can imagine. Like it's worse than the worst like horror movie plot ever, bro. It is truly unfathomable that stuff really happened to real people and that other humans
did them.
didn't just do them, but like delighted in them. Yeah. You know, we're talking about like truly demented people who never should have been allowed to develop to the point that they did. I don't know if people are born like that. I think it's a mixture of being born kind of fucked up and then having that nurtured instead of trying to correct it.
At a young age.
But brother, it was so bad. And I just, when you're a person doing stuff like that to people, I just don't think there's any
salvation in that.
I don't think so.
In that genocide class you took, were there any other genocides you learned about?
Yeah, we learned about several. We learned about like, it was 10 years ago, so I struggle to really remember them by name. But we learned about like the big genocide in Rwanda, and a few other in other countries that I can't really remember specifically. But it was like we did focus on the genocides themselves and like how they came to be, but like how they came to be ended up being the more important part. And we dug into like why these things happened and how like an entire nation of people can be
caught up,
slowly convinced to allow things like that to happen. And we dug into like the human nature of discrimination and like us versus them mentality and how humans naturally group themselves based on how everyone looks. And it's like every animal on the planet does that. It's way deeper than just like you're black and I'm white.
Yeah.
It's like your instinct is completely based on like other things around you that you perceive as being the same as you or different than you. And obviously if someone looks different than you, even though you're both human,
you're hesitant.
That instinct is making you, whether you realize it or not, is making you look at that person and you as two different things. And if you don't have the intellectual capacity to recognize that that's happening, it's very easy to spiral in. Or if someone else is playing off of that and leading you to think that way, even consciously, it's so easy. So easy, bro. I mean, look at, like, it still happens all the time right now, you know? There's fucking genocides happening right now. The way that people are still discriminated against in this country, in other countries even worse, in I think a lot of other places. What's happening with Russia and the Ukraine? Like, Russia 100% looks at Ukrainians as not, like, barely human.
Really? I thought they were looking at it more like, this is ours.
Well, they are.
You're supposed to be us.
But how do you do that to someone who you consider to be your equal?
Yeah.
They don't consider them their equal. They're like, you might look like us, but you're not like us because you're not Russian. Which is crazy because it's not even then like a visual thing. Yeah. You're just being told that these people are different than you because they were born in a different place and you're buying it. That's wild, bro. Yeah, that class I was so lucky I ended up taking it because I really just took it on a whim. Didn't benefit me in any like school capacity other than I got like a high school credit, but I didn't need it.
Yeah.
But man, I learned so much about myself and like human nature.
History classes are always so cool.
Yeah, they're great. They're probably the most valuable thing in the modern school system, other than math.
Yeah, math is okay.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Everyone always says math is important.
I mean, math is important. The math that like the standardized school system teaches in America is arguably not the most important part of math to be teaching. It's more
the way you think.
Yeah.
It more teaches you a way of thinking as opposed to like knowing your multiplication tables.
Exactly. Yeah. I also think like when you get into high school level math, that is all very important to know if you're going to move on into like further education, continued education, where math is a part of your study work. But I would argue that you could replace a lot of the like upper level math classes that we teach in high school with like basic finance and accounting classes, and everyone would be way better off. You know, teach the stuff that is going to apply in everyone's lives, no matter what.
Like an economics course. Almost.
Yes, bro.
Yeah.
Economics, like personal accounting, personal finance, even just like a 1 semester class on how to like balance a fucking checkbook. I mean, not a checkbook literally, but how to balance your finances would leave people in such a better place instead of just learning from their parents, which unfortunately, like the majority of Americans are teaching their kids the only thing they've ever known, which is
how they've done it.
Which
is how they learned.
Yeah.
They've just learned it from doing.
Exactly. And it's always like
not the most efficient way.
The worst way, bro. It's like basically everyone is teaching their kids, with few exceptions, you're going to have to work all your life. So just settle with that right now. Yeah. You're always going to have a car payment. So just settle with that right now. You're going to rent for like a lot of your life. And then eventually you might buy a house. So just settle with that right now. And you're going to have all these monthly payments and there's nothing you can do about it. And when
push comes to shove, just get a credit card.
Exactly. And don't like, everyone looks at like giving up these things that you're spending all this outrageous amount of money on as like, oh, if you have to give up having a monthly car payment of $600, that means you're really poor. It's like, no, man, you're really poor because you won't give up the fucking car payment, dude. Being like car poor or house poor in America is, it's literally the norm, you know?
Dude, I was watching TikTok the other day, and there was this little TikTok that was, it was a car dealership guy who was going around asking all the people who sell cars what their like car note was. And bro, some of the numbers that they were saying were so outrageous.
Yeah.
And it's like, yo, you guys are in the industry.
You know how like, predatory this is.
You shouldn't be. This guy was like $700. And this one girl was like $1,200. I was like, what fucking car
Holy shit.
did you buy on what? Like, what's your credit score? Like, how did you get
I've never heard of a
$4-digit $1,200 car payment.
Yeah, unless she's driving like an exotic.
Yeah, it was just a whole bunch of people saying like upper 600-700 as their like car note.
I mean, bro, I've been there.
That's crazy.
My car payment for the Mustang was like $650 a month or something like that.
Insane.
Acura was $720.
That's more than I pay in rent right now.
I know. It was truly insane. But
it was a lease too?
Yeah, the Acura was a lease.
Oh my God.
Yeah. But that's, a part of it was that I was not taught better.
Another part was you wanted.
A bigger part was I just didn't have the discipline. I was making a lot of money and I was like, daddy gets what daddy wants.
Yeah. Pride is such a crazy thing too.
The biggest.
It's like, oh, I can afford that.
And that's how I looked at it was like, I know this is a bad deal. Like I know how it works, but I'm making,
I got it like that.
Yeah. I'm making $6,000 a month right now. And I'm only spending 1,000 of that on rent. And I'm not even like, this is also at a time when I'm not really budgeting. So I don't know all my expenses. But I think to myself, my only big expense is rent. And other than that, like I have $4,000 or $5,000 to throw around at a car if I want to. And then I'm like making, dude, so much money and broke all the time because I just
paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah, literally on like $6,000 a month or more.
Yeah.
At certain points in my life because I just was a fucking idiot and kept throwing money at anything I wanted and never made a budget. Or even thought about like maybe not buying everything I want as soon as the fuck I want it,
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's a thing that everyone could stand to learn a little bit more about.
Discipline. Teaching discipline is tough though.
You can't teach it.
Teach discipline. You just
really
have to.
Can't.
I think you just have to go through it.
You just have to illustrate why, and make sure everyone, like the person, understands why they should be disciplined. But beyond that, it's just up to them to make that choice, bro. It's the ultimate, you can lead a horse to water, but you cannot make it drink situation, which is so unfortunate. But I mean, it is what it is, bro. That's why, that is one of the reasons that the rich get richer and the poor get poorer.
Yeah.
It's so much a mentality thing.
Trickle down economics, dude.
Yeah. I mean, it is also a privilege thing. And especially if you're born rich, you really don't need to be disciplined like a poor person who is trying to get rich. But most poor people are born poor, obviously. And if you never learn discipline, you don't have any hope of ever not being poor.
I find it weird, man. Sometimes I have this attitude of like, if you're born poor and you get rich, you like fall off the rails, but that almost never happens because you hear so much of the stories of like, oh, like he was born poor and then he made it, but he still acts like he's poor because of all the habits he learned. Yeah. But I always completely thought the opposite. I was like, people who are born poor, who eventually get a little money, don't know what to do with it. And they're just going crazy. But I think more often than not, it's the opposite.
Well, I guess it depends a lot on the context. If a person gets rich because they figured their shit out and they like worked hard and got rich as a result, those people probably have a pretty good shot at holding on to what they've gotten. But like, for example, I think this is a pretty commonly known thing now, but I don't know the exact number, but the overwhelming majority of people who win the lottery are like absolutely broke again within like 5 years of winning, even though they should clearly be set for life because they just don't know how the fuck to act.
How much money do you think you would have to be realistically like set for life?
I think assuming you're disciplined and you know what you're doing, or like, you know, or at least you are willing to learn how to make money work for you, you gotta be able to make it with $1 million.
1 million?
Yeah. Like if I handed you $1 million
$1 million
right now,
at age 25, you think you could make that money set you up for the rest of your life?
I mean, think about like all the things you can do with $1 million.
Yeah.
Let's even just assume that like you invest it in like an index fund or a mutual fund, you know? Let's say you put it in an index fund that grows at between 3 and 5% a year. Mm-hmm. What's 3% of $1 million?
30,000.
Can you live on 30,000 a year? Yes, probably not very comfortably, but you can make it happen.
Yeah.
So technically then you'd be set for life. And if you have any other additional income in addition to those dividends that you're living off of, and you're adding into that account, or let's say you are getting 30,000 a year back from that investment and you live off of 20 or 25, which would be hard, like actually very challenging. But if you could do it and you're growing that account balance by $5,000 or $10,000 a year and you're getting returns on that as well, yeah, you're set.
Yeah, I guess so.
For a while. It's tight though. But, you know, also if you invested into something where you're likely to see a better rate of return, like a mutual fund that consistently beats the market. I think there are a lot of mutual funds out there that like average 8 to 10% yearly returns, which is pretty good.
$100,000.
Yeah. Or like if you invested in properties, like rental properties, I'm sure you can make way more than that off your money. And the interesting thing about that is, you know, that money is growing no matter what, just because real estate generally is always growing. Not always, but you know, if you, on any long enough timeline, it's going to go up.
Yeah.
And in addition to that, you're bringing in rental income every month off of that investment.
Have you ever thought, historically, it's always been the same. The housing market increases at a certain rate every year. Mm-hmm. Is that just going to be forever? Like in 100 years from now, hypothetically, you buy a house, say it's worth $100,000. 100 years from now, is that house going to be worth like $600,000 in the same, like if quote unquote nothing changes just because the market changes? And if that's the case, are we just going to be printing more money? Are wages just going to keep increasing?
Well, that's what I was going to say.
Is the average income just going to continue to increase?
Yeah. If the value of all real estate continues to go up infinitely, at a certain point, that's happening because the currency is just becoming less valuable. Because, you know, like if you look at like real estate in an undeveloped area, that's definitely going to keep going up. Because as cities expand, eventually they reach those undeveloped areas, and companies and people want to inhabit that land, and so they will pay a premium for it, and it becomes more valuable. That's clear. But like, let's talk about like, you know.
But cities only expand as population grows.
Right.
And there's been a steady decrease in population growth in the last like 5 years because a lot of people aren't having kids as rapidly as they were in like the early 2000s. So do you think there's going to be a point where houses just start to devalue if said population continues to decrease?
It's possible.
It's crazy to think about.
But I also don't think we'll stay on a downward trend of population. Because I think like whether or not, I don't know this, but I'm guessing that whether the population is growing or shrinking is pretty closely tied to like the emotional state of the population in general. And right now, everyone's generally like pretty bummed and not very happy with like the way the world looks right now. And it seems a little bleak to like bring kids into the world right now, even though realistically we're living in the best time.
Also, they
history.
say like the wealthier you are, the less inclined you are to have kids.
Really?
Yeah. A lot of the...
Well, we definitely know that poor people make the most kids.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, I don't want to say unfortunate in a way of like poor people shouldn't have kids, but as far as just like setting yourself and your children up for success, you should have your stuff sorted out before you have kids. But it's not like they're having kids because they're poor. They're having kids because they're uneducated. And I mean, I guess that's really it, mostly uneducated about like how expensive it is to have a kid, how easy it is to avoid having a kid, stuff like that.
It's interesting.
So yeah, it is a whole thing. But I imagine, I don't know when or how far into the future, but I really have a feeling that it's all just cyclical.
Yeah.
And we're going to get to a
boom.
point where there's another boom. Yeah. Usually at a point where economics are in a really high point, I would guess, is when we see stuff like that. Hi, Ben. Welcome to the podcast. Ben's on the table if you guys want to tune into the video.
Ben, you scared the shit out of me. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah, Ben, you're a scary dude.
You stared right into my soul.
But yeah, I imagine the next time, if there is a next time, that like housing is at a record-setting affordability, and people are all generally making a good amount of money.
And they're just buying houses and starting families.
Yeah. That's a big one. Because, you know, right now, if you're like a millennial or younger,
you're not looking to have kids.
You're not in a position, if you are educated, you know you're not in a good position generally to start a family unless you're already making a lot of money.
Yeah.
You know?
Also, like the normal workplace environment nowadays, people move from job to jobs. People are happy with being unemployed.
Yeah. There's way less stability in life.
Yeah. So,
which is an up and a down, I think.
I can't remember the last time it was like that, though. The only time that like job security was low, I guess, or like not as high as it is, was after like a war, when it was people were struggling to find jobs. Now, I don't know if it's like people are struggling to find jobs or people just are okay with not working, or like there's just more ways of making money than your stereotypical get a job, work your 9 to 5. Like,
I think it's a combination of those, because certainly we live in probably this is the easiest time it's ever been to make money through unconventional means. But at the same time, like companies now, I mean, like on a personal level, I'm sure they value like loyalty and having good people. But when it comes down to the money and like the benefits of working at a place, and this is also probably pretty industry specific, but like when you listen to the stories of people who were living in the 50s and 60s and 70s and probably even into the 80s, the longer you stayed at a company, the way better off you were, you know? And that company like had a great pension plan, all these benefits and shit, the company cars. You really were set if you spent a majority of your working life working for the same company. Whereas now it's basically common knowledge that you are playing yourself if you stay at the same company for more than 2 years, because you're always going to get a better offer from a new employer who wants to bring you on, and your current employer will offer a new person a better deal than they're willing to give you. Because I guess employers just feel like you already work here and I'm not going to do that much to convince you to stay, because you're probably going to stay anyway.
Or you're just going to leave and I'm going to find someone else anyway.
Yeah.
It's a lot more flexible.
Yeah, it is quite an interesting time we live in, man.
It's an interesting shift of perspective.
Yeah,
because I think me growing up in my like early teens, it was still instilled into me that like you work for a company and you work your way up in the company and they will give you benefits along the way. But now I'm slowly realizing that that's just not the case.
Yeah.
And I think people are like less patient, I guess is really the word. Like people want their money and they want it now, they want it quick, or they want new opportunities and things like that. Yeah. Especially with all the different ways you can make money. So,
and especially also because companies are really, it seems like for the most part, they're all clinging to the compensation structure of yesteryear, you know, like decades ago, when you start a person, whatever industry where you might look at, you start a person off in this position at this much, you increase their compensation this much every year or every set of years, and then eventually they retire with this like pension or separation package or whatever. But that stuff just doesn't reflect the reality that we live in right now, because obviously income never grows at the same rate as inflation. And that's just inflation, not even considering other factors that make things more expensive. But it is like the most expensive it's ever been to live, at least in this country.
Yeah.
And
especially in a big city.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially in a big city. And most employers' compensation plans just don't reflect that. So it's tough, man.
It's a weird spot to be in, because like businesses are growing, but they're not making more money.
Yeah.
In most industries, I think.
Well, it's
because the cost of running the company is increasing at a higher rate than the profits that they're making.
Again, inflation.
Or like net sales. Yeah.
Even if they bring in more dollars every year, like net revenue,
they're spending.
Those dollars are worth less. Yeah. And so, they have to spend more of them because they're getting less for the dollar that they spend on their cost. So their margins have to be higher than they've ever been.
Yeah.
Plus, like the inherent capitalist need to literally every year make more money.
Yeah.
How can you? It's just like the same thing about real estate prices.
Yeah. It's such a crazy cycle because I think this is really bad for small businesses like mom and pop shops because they're just struggling to survive.
Yeah.
Like dry cleaners, donut shops, so many new coffee shops have opened up and closed down within like 5 or 6 months because the cost of operation is just so high.
Yep.
And you can't keep these new places just can't get away with selling $5 lattes.
Yeah.
Like it's just not obtainable.
Especially because with how integrated technology is into all of our lives now. Let's say you do open up a mom and pop shop that's selling donuts. Like you aren't just buying or leasing a building to have your donut shop in and paying for all the equipment and the hours of employees to do all that work. You also, if you want to succeed realistically, are like paying or putting in the hours to have a good website. You need to do digital marketing and like not a little bit of it. You need to do a lot of it.
Yeah, you need to allow like delivery services,
which cost you money.
Yeah.
I don't know if a lot of people know this, but every restaurant that allows integration with a delivery service, like if you DoorDash food, those restaurants are losing money on food, not all money, but they're making a lot less on that food if it gets delivered by DoorDash than versus if you just went and ordered it yourself. Because DoorDash is taking a cut of the restaurant side of the profit in addition to the money they're charging you for the delivery. It's a really tough spot. And on top of that, like, how likely is someone to go to a new coffee place that they've never heard of compared to like Starbucks where like you have $500 in rewards points that you've been racking up and there's a great app and you can get on the app and build your ridiculous custom coffee order and just pull up and it will be ready when you're there and paid for already. You don't even have to talk to a person.
Yeah.
I can't tell you the last time I spoke to a person at Chipotle. I put in my order on the app. I go pick it up off a shelf. Potbelly sandwiches, same thing. Subway, same thing. Like, why would someone deal with having to, in the time we live in now also where nobody really wants to deal with talking to people.
That makes me so sad.
It is kind of sad.
I've personally avoided any sort of food delivery sites ever. I don't think I've ever DoorDashed.
I avoid them because of the financial side of it.
That's a big part of it too. But I enjoy like going somewhere and being like, hey, can I have this? It's like the nuances of like small interactions.
Interesting.
It's like a little part of my day.
Interesting. I can't say that I enjoy that part.
Really? That's weird because you're more social, I think, than I am. But I know people. So like, for example, my brother, I don't think he ever buys anything that's not online.
Yeah.
Everything he ever gets.
Most people are moving that way, man.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. That seems to be the way. But it's so like, what's going to happen? Is everything just going to be...
It paints a bleak picture for the future.
But if you think about it in a vacuum, that's like good. That's like improvement on society. It's like, oh, we cut out the middleman. You can just get your thing right away. But inherently, I think it's a bad thing.
It definitely seems like it, at least socially. It definitely doesn't seem like it's very good. It increases how easy it is for us to isolate ourselves. But then on the other hand, the way I always think about it, because I've had that thought too, is like, why am I so adverse to talking to people? Because I talk, that's all I do. But I kind of have this idea that there's like, there's social interactions that I take something from. There's social interactions that I don't, And speaking to the person at Whataburger, Chipotle, or wherever I'm going.
It does nothing for you.
It does nothing for me, and it does nothing for them.
Yeah.
They don't want to deal with me. I don't want to deal with them. Humans fuck up my order all the time. Apps don't.
You don't think so?
No.
What if
the person making the food, it's just like at work when we are taking people's orders, I get told by a table what they want, and then I write it down, hopefully, and I hopefully write it down correctly. And then I go to the computer and I ring it in, and hopefully I ring it in correctly, and the kitchen gets a ticket. I think the margin for error is way greater everywhere before the kitchen gets the ticket. As long as you have competent people working in the kitchen of your restaurant, the ticket is going to get made the way whatever fuck it says. But between the table telling me what they want and me writing it down and then me reading it again 5 minutes later when I already forgot what they said, and I'm just assuming that my notes are correct and I'm putting it in correctly, hopefully again, there's so many spots there where it can get fucked up. But like when I order my shit, not that I do this regularly anymore, but like if I order something from anywhere and I'm on the app, first off, it makes it way easier to ask for weird modifications that take a long time to explain to a person. Yeah. Like I know exactly how the fuck, like you order a pizza from Pizza Hut and you can just build the pizza exactly how you want, or like Chipotle, same thing. It just cuts out so much room for error. I mean, that is nice. And I think it saves me and the person at the counter from having to like slog through. Yeah, I want ketchup and mayo, but still the mustard and everything else that comes on it. Can't tell you how many times I've gone through the line at Whataburger and been like, add ketchup and mayo to the burger, and then I get it and there's only ketchup and mayo on it. I'm like, bro, I said add because I've worked here and I know that the button for add is different than the button for sub. But, stuff like that.
Okay.
So I hope that I'm right in assuming that those interactions don't really do anybody any good, and so we're not losing anything by cutting them out of our lives. But I could be wrong. I mean, it definitely is probably taking away from our practice and skill at just dealing with people in general. Because if you only ever talk to people that you like or like have a motivation to talk to,
you're going to be a weird person.
You're going to be a weird person and you're not going to be good at talking to strangers, which is a skill.
Yeah. You're going to be a Nazi, dude. You're just going to keep your circle small and you're going to believe one thing for the rest of your life.
Exactly. So yeah, it's complicated.
Yeah. That also begs the question of like, at what point do we just automate everything and we no longer need someone at a counter to do anything? And then it's like, what are they going to do? Where are they going to work? What are we going to provide? Are they just going to be like customer service call representatives, which is a shitty job in general?
Yeah, super shitty. I mean, it does. That's another thing that comes up a lot when people talk about like automation of things. And like, the first big thing that I think caught a lot of people's attention was when McDonald's started putting in screens for you to order your food in the lobby, and they don't even need a person up front anymore. And it's only a matter of time before, they put in machines that make the food too. That all already exists. The only reason that it's not already happening at every McDonald's in the world is because it's more expensive than paying a person an hourly wage to do it. But as soon as either the technology gets cheaper, or more realistically, if like we all push too hard for too high of a minimum wage, it is literally a no-brainer for them to put in one or two robotic arms in the whole building that can build every Big Mac that ever gets ordered. Of course they're going to do that. You
don't think the government is gonna like step in
and say you can't do that?
Yeah.
I sure hope they don't.
You don't think so?
That's crazy.
Part of me thinks the government will do that.
I think they will definitely talk about it. And I mean, and they should talk about it. Everyone should talk about it. But I think when you really boil it down, if we do that, then what we're saying is the answer to this problem, which is a very complex problem, is that we're going to artificially create busy work that is unnecessary just so that people can get paid for doing it. And that's absolutely crazy. If you're going to do that, it would be way, way smarter and easier and efficient to just charge those companies that are automating things an extra tax and give the people that would have those jobs that money and not make them do the work. Why would they have to do the work if they don't have to?
You talk about universal income.
I mean, look, bro, we automate enough things. Universal income is something we have to talk about.
Yeah.
And I spent a long time in my life not liking that idea because it's communist.
Uh-huh.
But like, bro,
if everything can get done
in a few hundred years, robots will be able to do all of the jobs in the world that people don't want to do. And it would be stupid for us to not do that, because you're freeing up so many people to do whatever they want to do instead of whatever they have to do to make ends meet. And the only thing standing in the way of that is, where are they going to get the money to live?
What's a society going to do if there's nothing to do except for what they want to do?
Great question.
Anarchy.
I mean,
People
it truly
get crazy.
It's a question that like we haven't really ever had to solve
ever, except for
unless you look way, way, way back. Because you think about
like
like tribal living, like really basic living.
But that's not even like grand society as a whole. That's more like tribal, like communal.
Well, I'm like in a time when your grand community was only as big as the people you see every day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like literally your entire life is this group of like probably 20 to 50 people who you live in the same like small
hut
village with. Yeah. And when that was how life was, or even earlier than that, when, all like the only work there was to be done was collecting of like food and materials for like life. Right. So like you have a group of people who goes out and hunts food or collects food or farms, whatever it is.
You have people who pick berries.
Yeah. But aside from all that work being done, everything else is you're chilling. Like there are no other obligations.
Yeah.
And especially if you're talking about like a group that is mostly living off of animals and not farming, the work hours are minimal, bro. Like you go out and kill one fucking buffalo or cow or horse, and you're feeding a lot of people for a couple of days, or a few people for a lot of days until the meat goes bad. And then what else do you do?
Yeah.
And back then, mostly what people did was like hang out around fires and have sex, I'm assuming.
Yeah. Or tell stories.
Yeah, like tell stories and all that. In this day and age where technology is unlimited and we can all, and we all want to do like the most fantastical things imaginable, I don't know what you do. And I don't know how you do it. But I do think realistically, if we don't all blow ourselves up before it gets to this point, we're going to come to a time where humanity does not need to work. We're going to have technology doing all the work, bro. And we're all just going to be able to kick it. And when you have machines doing all the farming, why should food have to cost that much or anything? Which is a really radical thing to say, but I mean, realistically, that's the point we're going to get to, bro. Yeah. Like once you pay off the cost of the machine and the cost of the initial round of seeds to like plant crops, or the initial round of animals, if we're still doing livestock shit.
What would you pay for at that point?
Yeah.
What's being paid for? And
why are you paying for it? If the company is getting it for free and the only thing we're paying for here is like the upkeep on the machines,
I have a feeling the people who sell the machines are going to have like an annual.
Yeah, for sure. But that's all.
So you'll never be able to own a machine unless you like manufacture it yourself.
Then like McDonald's just opens their own tech development branch and builds their own machines. Oof. But hopefully, and I don't want to be like unnecessarily pessimistic about this. Hopefully, when we get to that point, it hopefully will be like a little bit of a perspective shift for all of humanity, where it's like, oh, we have built a world now where we don't need to be so caught up about squeezing the most amount of money out of everything, because you squeeze all the money you can out of stuff so that you have an abundance. But now we're talking about a situation where everyone can have abundance. Food is not a worry ever again. Housing doesn't have to be a concern ever again, because we have robots that build houses for free. We have robots that collect the materials you need to build houses for free. All you have to do is oil the machine or like charge the battery. And thankfully, we have solar panels all over these huge swaths of undeveloped land that provide electricity for free. All you need is to have another robot that goes out and dusts them once a week. Like, really, seriously, it's not crazy to think that eventually...
So many fucking robots.
It's all going to be robots. Yeah. That's what I'm saying, bro. Robots are going to do everything that a human doesn't want to do. And a human doesn't want to do anything except the stuff they like doing.
What do people like doing?
Making art, consuming art, having sex. Those are the big ones.
That's what we're gonna be doing for. That's what somebody's gonna be born into that lifestyle.
Yeah, bro. I mean, I don't think it's a crazy stretch to imagine that in like a couple thousand years, people are born. And
you don't have a feeling that in a couple thousand years, like the whole like sun getting close to the earth and everything goes kabloom is gonna happen?
I mean, it's a definite possibility. So like the earth destroying the sun is an inevitable eventuality, but it shouldn't happen for millions of years, assuming that it happens when the sun explodes or dies and not earlier because something crazy and unforeseen happens, right? I mean, in a month we could get hit by some fucking wild asteroid or another like rogue planet flying through the universe that we didn't know about. And that's just it for us. But yeah, Earth.
Did you watch that movie with Leonardo DiCaprio and all of them about like the meteor that was going to hit Earth? What is it called?
I don't think I did.
Oh, it was actually really good.
Was it 2012? Was it called 2012?
No. It just came out. Not just came out. It's actually been a while. I think it came out during like right after the pandemic. I forgot what it was called, but it was basically a movie about a scientist who like discovered a meteor that was going to come hit the Earth. It was a satirical thing because like the president was supposed to be Trump and an incompetent dude who doesn't listen.
It sounds vaguely familiar, but I don't think I ever saw it.
It was a really big movie. Everybody was talking about it whenever it came out because there was nothing else to talk about, and it had like an all-star cast.
I see.
But you should watch it. I think you'd really enjoy it.
Okay.
That just reminded me of it.
Yeah. But yeah, I think the Earth. I mean, clearly the Earth's days are numbered.
Even though it's going to be around for a couple more.
A while, a few thousand years, maybe several thousand. Who knows? But eventually, the Earth is done, and if we don't want to be done with it, we have to diversify our portfolio of current living places. Yeah, and
Elon Musk is on it, dude.
People super don't like it when you talk about this because it sounds like what I'm saying is we don't have to worry about this planet and like not fucking it up because we can just go live somewhere else. And that's not what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. Earth is going to be the only place we live for a long time. And even if it wasn't, we should still take care of it. Mm-hmm. We should take care of it just like the same way a person takes care of their own house. You always should take care of where you live because it's how you keep it good for you to live in. So we should definitely stop fucking up the planet so hard like we do. We should ideally not fuck it up at all. But even then, even if tomorrow we could completely stop harming the planet in any way, it will still die eventually when the Earth explodes or when the sun explodes. And if in those millions of years from now, we want to not become extinct with it, we have to live in other places, bro. We have to live in other solar systems, which means I think my guess, just like logistically, is that is going to start with us building space stations that like orbit the Earth or like on the moon even. And then from there, or maybe we'll do other planets in our solar system first and then space stations. But I think on a long enough term, we're talking about like building a space station that is the size of a city.
Yeah. That
is its own thing independent of any other planet that people are like born on and live on. Think like, and we're talking like fucking Star Trek type shit.
Yeah.
You know, like spaceships and space stations big enough to be their own fully independent cities, ecosystems. Yeah. Definitely not happening anytime soon.
No, not in our lifetime.
Not in our lifetimes. Not even close. Yeah. I think.
But that's what you think the future of society is going to be.
It's the future of mankind if we want to have an infinitely long possibility of existing.
Do you think there are other intelligent life forms out there that can like predict when a star is going to explode or a big ball of gas, whatever, and they know that the Earth has like, or they're like, oh, this Milky Way galaxy, the Earth has like this amount of time, and like a few years before, we'll travel there, we'll let everyone know, and then we'll get them accommodated at a new system.
Maybe, but you would. I don't know. Maybe there is, but if there is, they're probably not aware of us. Because if there was a society that was that smart and was aware that we existed and had the means to like get over here, we probably would have heard from them by now. if they're like interested in our well-being like that. My guess is there's either intelligent life out there that is way further behind than us, or way further ahead than us and can't be bothered with us or doesn't want to be bothered with us because we're dangerous, or
there's just a whole bunch of different planet Earth type.
They're just out there and not aware of us. I think that's the most likely thing. Or there's nothing else out there. It's definitely a low statistical chance, but possible that we are the only
life forms.
Intelligent life forms.
Yeah.
Only life forms? I don't think so. No shot. But only intelligent life forms?
That begs that begs the question. Is there a God?
Maybe. A lot of times I think God is probably just like the scientist who like dropped all the drops in the petri dish that is the universe, and then is like watching and it's like, oh, that's fucking wild.
Like the creator of the universe.
Yeah. Like this whole universe just exists in a test tube somewhere that, you know, some otherworldly being is, you know, like fucking
just fucking with.
The same way that like an amoeba under a telescope at U of H, like some kid is looking at it, and it's like could not possibly comprehend that there is some absolutely beyond its comprehension being that is just like watching it, like, oh, sick, dude. And if it was aware of it, it might be like, that is God, like the ultimate beyond comprehension created everything. Yeah.
He's meanwhile, watching over me.
That thing's God is just like, oh, sick amoeba, dude, and then like throws it in the trash. Like, could not give a fuck less about it.
A year later. Oh, wow. Guys, I promise we didn't smoke any weed before this.
Yeah, it's true.
It's just a rainy day.
Yeah, it's raining, so, you know.
It's just a rainy day. It's a rainy Monday for us here at the 6 Inch King Studios.
Dude, I'm so hungry. I've been so hungry lately.
What'd you eat?
A pear.
Fuck yeah.
I had a pear for breakfast.
You should get enchilada.
I mean, I'm going to my mom's for dinner after this.
That's fair.
She's making some chicken and rice.
Ooh.
Pretty excited about that.
That sounds exciting.
Yeah, it is exciting.
Rice. Good old fashioned home cooked mom's.
Yeah, bro.
Mom's cooking.
She makes this like semi spicy rice. I don't know what all is in it, bro. I think there's like rotel in there. It's not spicy, but it's spiced. There's rotel in there. I think there's milk in there. She uses milk when she makes this rice, bro. It comes out so good.
Dude, my whole life I had just been making plain white rice.
Yeah. Well, you're Asian.
Yeah. I didn't even know you could like mess with the water to add flavor to your rice.
I mean, it does sound kind of crazy when you first hear about it. When I first started at Tiny's and they told me how the coconut rice was made, I was like, can you just put any liquid in there and that's what you're going to taste on the rice? And now, literally right now in this moment, I'm like, oh, fuck, my mom makes rice with milk sometimes.
Imagine making rice with like Coca-Cola or like Sprite.
What if it's delicious?
It could. It probably is. Yeah. We should try it.
But yeah, let's try it.
Do you think anyone's ever made rice with soda?
Certainly. In the history of the world?
Yeah.
Bro. Rice cookers have been around for like, what, 20, 30, 40 years? Someone has to have put some crazy liquids. I bet there's a YouTube video about it.
Okay. Because I was going to say, if it has been done before, I feel like if it was a success, we would have heard about it.
That's true. We should do it on YouTube.
Yeah. We should do a live stream of it.
Yeah. It'll be on the Patreon.
And then we could do a taste testing and invite all our friends over and be like, try this.
Yeah. Blind taste test. I'll taste each one of these and tell us what do we make it with.
Dr. Pepper, Sprite.
Yeah.
Water.
Dude, Gatorade. Yeah. What else? I would say milk is the craziest one, but
orange juice.
It works. Orange juice.
All the juices, apple
juice.
Made
alcohol infused rice.
Alcohol doesn't boil?
Well, it doesn't boil at the same temperature as...
I guess it would.
It actually might boil sooner because it doesn't freeze at the same temperature as water. It freezes colder. Does that mean it's going to boil colder too?
I think you would... I mean, if you get it hot enough, I think you would boil the alcohol out.
Yeah.
Anyways. But it would still be infused with...
Has to be.
No.
Look, bro, if I can taste the fucking coconut milk in coconut rice, even though the coconut water, even though that got boiled out, why can't I taste the goddamn vodka? Also, there's rice wine.
There is rice wine.
What if I use rice wine to make the rice, dude?
How is rice wine made? Rice is fermented.
It's got to be fermented, right?
Yeah.
It's like all alcohol is fermentation, right? Dude, let's make mint wine. Probably won't taste good.
No.
But nothing ever tastes good at first. You just act like it does, and then people start liking it. That's how sushi was invented.
Oh, I don't know about
and all alcohol.
Yeah, there's a lot of trial and error going on in alcohol before you get it right. You know, we could make mint wine. We just have to probably distill it a couple times.
Yeah. My thing about stuff like making alcohol is I'm sure there's like a process to getting it to taste how you want it to taste or whatever you think is like the best taste. But ultimately, like with every different liquor that is made out of like some different thing, or with beers or wine, you just get to a point where, like, let's say you're the first person who ever made red wine. Mm-hmm. You give it to someone and they taste it and they're like, oh my God, bro, is this how it's supposed to taste? And you're like, yeah. And it tastes good. You're just not used to it yet.
Just give it some time.
And then they keep drinking it.
And then it starts making them feel.
And you can consume anything on a long enough basis and get used to it, I think.
I think so. I think that's what happens. I think that's what happens with like vegetables. Almost every single kid in the world doesn't like vegetables.
I think they're not exposed to them enough, bro.
They eat them long enough and they're like, oh,
I have this idea that I think a lot of people, when I say it, they think it sounds pretty radical, but I don't think it's radical at all. It seems like complete common sense to me. Do not give your kids goddamn candy.
Yeah.
If you take a child from birth and only let them eat like natural whole foods or even like cooked foods, but it's only like healthy veggies and fruit and protein sources and no like processed candies and sweets and baked goods, they are gonna like that stuff because it's all they've ever known.
I think that's what happened with me.
Probably.
I don't like a lot
I think it's a lot more common in other like non-American cultures.
Yeah.
To do that.
Dude, my cousin from Nepal just came over and she's lived in Nepal her whole life, and we like took her out to eat at like a place.
Yeah.
And she said she hated it.
I bet.
She's like, this food is gross.
Yeah. Because American food, and probably food in every like super developed country, it's all so like processed. But when I say processed, I don't just mean like, oh, it's evil because it's processed. I mean like the way that it is processed to be like super palatable is not
what people
that's not what food really tastes like. And when you're not accustomed to that and you didn't grow up on it and you go straight from real natural food to the fucking insane shit that we eat, it's like way too much, I think. Yeah. It's probably insane.
It gives people like stomach aches.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, bro. So, yeah, y'all stop giving your goddamn kids candy. Yeah. Why would you give your kid candy? It boggles my mind.
Yeah. You're starting a problem.
Exactly. Like, dude, how many times in your life are you going to have an opportunity to like erase a bad behavior from a person's mind completely, like they never even knew about it? Imagine like if I'm a serial gambler, like I've ruined my life with degenerate gambling, but you had the ability to remove the idea of gambling from my head. I never even knew it existed. Literally, my life is fixed now.
Yeah.
You can't do that with a person after they're alive and have learned things, but you can do it with a child who has never learned about the thing that you want to keep them from.
Yeah.
If you never let your kid taste candy, they will never be addicted to candy. And you'll never be in a position where, like I have this with my sister and my nephew all the time. And it's not just her. I mean, this is a super common thing you hear from parents in general. They're like, oh yeah, Billy is super like picky. He'll only eat this, or he'll only eat candy, or he'll only eat bread. And it's like, well, if you only ever expose them to healthy things to eat, let them get picky and only like those things because it's still great for them. But people don't have I was going to say they don't have the discipline, but I don't even think it's that hard. I think they just don't realize the Pandora's box they're opening by letting their kid have something. They're like, I mean, I love candy. They're going to have a little bit every now and then. You think your kid is going to have a little bit every now and then? And they're like, oh, I'll make sure they only have a little bit.
But that means they can never participate in Halloween.
Halloween is the worst thing that's ever happened to children in this world, bro. And it's like a consumer holiday. It's a whole thing. But
yeah, it's not a real holiday. It doesn't celebrate anything. I don't think so.
No, it doesn't. It's like based on some pagan holiday. Or some people say it's about like worshiping the devil.
Oh.
But it's just a reimagined fall festival.
Okay.
But we've reworked it into like a holiday where we buy candy. because the candy companies
and costumes
tricked us into doing that.
And
Yeah. But
can you believe we still celebrate Thanksgiving after learning about the history of Thanksgiving?
it definitely seems like the tone of it is shifting a little bit into like.
The idea is nice.
Well, the funny thing about it is like it has always been to give thanks to the Native Americans that like set us up for success. And I mean, on its face, that still sounds good and worthy of celebrating. But a lot, obviously it has also been a lot of like, I guess, giving thanks to like Christopher Columbus and all the other brave pioneers that brought us into this country, which is not cool anymore. And I think like, isn't Thanksgiving also like simultaneously the same day, like Indigenous Peoples Day or something like that now?
Is it?
Or maybe the day after? Something like that. Like definitely we're kind of massaging and reworking the idea of Thanksgiving into being more like, hey, our bad for like fucking everything
up. Shout out
up,
to the Native Americans.
Which is really what it should be. But it's also kind of taken on its own thing as like kind of a spiritual religious holiday for people to just be grateful for things in life.
And that's okay. Less so about that. It's more like, let me take this day to be thankful for other people around me, which is nice. But
yeah, that is okay. But yeah, definitely we got to call out the like Christopher Columbus shit. That's got to stop. Christopher Columbus Day has to go.
Yeah.
Unless it's like it needs to be turned into like a day of memorial, or maybe Columbus Day got turned into Indigenous Peoples Day.
I wonder if they still celebrate it at school. I remember when I was like a kid in elementary school, we would have like Columbus Day celebrations.
Columbus Day and not Thanksgiving?
Well, Thanksgiving, yes, but you know how there's a Columbus Day and like that, like as well.
Yeah,
we would.
We never celebrated it in school.
Really, we would like make hats and like drop stuff and
for Columbus Day.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah,
we did all that for Thanksgiving for sure. We would like do these drawings of pilgrims or like use your hand to draw a turkey, all that stuff. Which I think that's all okay as long as you're not like reinforcing any weird stereotypes about people with like how they look in your depiction of them, which definitely was happening when I was that age. Mm-hmm. I'm hoping that it's a little better now as far as like the way Native Americans are portrayed in that stuff. But yeah, Columbus Day, we can 86 that one.
Yeah. I'm down for it, dude.
Yeah.
I'm down for it, dude. The more you learn, it's the more you learn.
Yeah. What an ordeal, bro. What a time we're living in.
How crazy things fall, how crazy things just like come together.
Yeah. It's just so,
dude, so many things have happened to lead us to this moment.
Yeah. The nature of our existence is so like unfathomably complicated and nuanced. And like the number of things that are happening all the time and like have to be happening to lead to this specific scenario that we're in every moment of every day, Do
you ever want to like trace your ancestry back to like root one? Like the first, like how would you even do that? I mean, I know it's actually not possible, but have you ever thought?
Well, it depends on what you mean by root one. Because if you really trace your ancestry all the way back.
I'm talking to the beginning.
Then we all come from like single cell organisms that lived in the ocean. Or even crazier, originally lived on like probably an asteroid that crashed onto the planet one day, and somehow these fucking crazy organisms didn't die and adapted to the current like climate of the planet, and then over millions and millions of years evolved into what we are now.
What if that's all simultaneously happening on other planets and they just haven't gotten to a point?
I mean, it's got to be happening on some planets, like in the whole universe. It's got to be. Do you remember, or have you ever seen, I think I've asked you about this before, Bill Wirtz on YouTube has a video called The History of Everything, I guess. And it's like a 30-minute video.
Yeah.
Does a pretty good job of explaining.
Like a funny way of explaining.
Yeah, funny, but completely like historically accurate within reason, as much as like a person can be sure that they're accurate about the beginning of the universe. But he goes from like literally the beginning of the universe up until right now.
Yeah.
Or I guess in the year he made it, which was probably like 2012 or 2013, something like that. But dude, I love every now and like, maybe once a year or every couple of years, I'll go back and rewatch that. And the second half of it, which is more like the like history of humanity getting from medieval times into present day, that's interesting and funny, but not as interesting as like from the beginning of the universe to the time that like living mammals popped up on Earth. It's so crazy to watch, bro. And we just have like an idea about how it all happened.
Yeah.
That seems like it's probably pretty accurate.
Sure.
But yeah, nobody was there, so how can we say for sure? It's so crazy to think about, dude.
I want to meet my great grandparents and be like, yo, what's up, guys? What are y'all doing in this village? Which one of y'all are hunting bison today?
Yeah. And they're like, all of us, every day. Except for the girls. They have to stay home.
And they have to wear cloth that covers their whole body.
Yeah. Dude, that's a crazy one to think about. I have spent not so much time, but I've thought so many times that like nothing is inherently taboo about the naked body except that we cover up and people just want what they don't have. If you just like, dude, if you just imagine you start a new society or even this society and tomorrow, for some reason, everyone just agreed, no more clothes. We're all walking around naked. It would be really crazy and probably kind of bad for like the first several years. But eventually, everyone just is used to seeing everyone naked. And like breasts are no longer sexualized probably the way that they are now. Like if you think about it, think back to any time in humanity when a different part of the female body was sexualized and they always covered it up. And then as time progresses and things become more liberal and they stop covering it because it's like risque and then it becomes normal. When's the last time you gave a shit about seeing an ankle or a wrist or a hand
or a shoulder
or a shoulder? It's not even uncommon now to see like women's entire midsections or even the bottom of their boobs, that is still pretty like scintillating, I guess you would say right now.
10 years from now, no.
Yeah, 10, 20, 30 years from now, it probably won't be. We're going to get to the point where we're just literally only covering the nipples. The nipple is the last great bastion of taboo body real estate, other than like literally reproductive genitalia. I don't know. It just seems to me like if you just uncovered everything and got through the rough transitionary period, everybody would be way more chill about it.
Yeah.
And way more like comfortable with themselves too. You know, clothing and like the way we cover ourselves up because we're uncomfortable.
Isn't it crazy that all of this stems from like not letting children see naked people because like they're like, oh, these are kids. They're not. But like if you teach them at a young age, they'll grow up and they'll be like, oh,
they're never going to. It's exactly the same as like kids go out and party way too hard and fuck themselves up because nobody let them have a drink of alcohol until they were 21. Mm-hmm. So they don't learn anything about it that whole time. And then they go out when they're 17 in high school and they like die because they just don't know anything about partying and they get way too sloshed. You know, ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
That's a good one.
Thanks, dude.
That's a really good one.
I wish I could remember where I learned it. I've known it for a very long time.
That's a great one.
Yeah.
I'm going to write that one down.
You should, bro. It's powerful. It's powerful, powerful stuff right there, dude.
Wow.
Just like this episode of the podcast has been really powerful.
So powerful.
This was a great episode, dude. We really went deep.
Thought-provoking, for sure. This rain, something in the rain, dude.
Rain brought it out of us, bro. Oof. The rain washed away our inhibitions and allowed us to really get into our feelings today.
Well, this has been another episode of the 6 Inch Kings podcast. We always thank you guys for listening. We appreciate the support. And if any of you guys want to come on the podcast and get deep with us, or just have a good time,
yeah, that would be great.
Reach out.
We can talk about all this stuff with you again if you want, or we can just talk about anything else in the world, dude. As long as you don't want to talk about ankles, because that's not cool. But yeah, appreciate you listening, guys. Y'all do your best to be good to yourselves and to each other out there, and have a good time.
Love thy neighbor.
And don't take it too seriously. And we'll see you next week.
Peace.